All right, everyone, welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 12 recap. 12 weeks down, one to go. Hopefully, this recap will be short and sweet because, for the most part, I am on cruise control as I've clinched a bye week already, and I'm kind of just only had a passing interest in what happened this week. Well, maybe not passing interest so much as only really half paid attention to what went on. Didn't really watch any games, really do too much. Kind of turned my brain off a little bit from football here for the next few weeks. Still got to pay close attention to what's going on, but it's a luxury to have this feeling. Gag's right there along with me. We'll see what happens with who wins the regular season championship. I know I've said before, it doesn't matter to me. Yeah, it's a little bit of extra cash, but nobody remembers who wins the first place regular season title anyway. All I know is my team won't be in a game that really matters, to me at least, until week 15. So I'm getting myself primed up for that. Okay. That's a minute and a half of just talking about myself here. Nobody likes that. We had another good week in the books. Some playoff picture it got muddled for a couple people. Unfortunately for the Shawshank Athletics, we are clapping you out. You are no longer in the playoff race, and we had a couple teams here get themselves all tied up at 7-5. A couple teams went up to 8-4, but they still have not clinched a playoff spot yet. So this last week could be interesting. I don't think the teams. There could be really only the last spot or two of the playoffs is up for grabs. All right. Let's just get into the past week's matchups and see what happened. All right. As you always know, I start with the defending champion, and that is the Springfield Isotopes. And unfortunately, this week they brought the White Wolves season-long streak to an end, as the Springfield Isotopes fell to the White Wolf, giving him his first victory of the season, tarnishing that 0 on his record. Final score here was 179.4 to 136.15. And it was pretty much entirely on the back of Juju Smith-Schuster and Amari Cooper here, as those two combined for almost 90 points, because they both had 90-yard touchdowns. So if you add the 6 points for bonuses there, they are almost 45 points each. So that's just about 90 from those two guys. And that was enough to propel the White Wolf to a big score. I believe his high score of the entire season. And it was enough to get past the Isotopes this week. For the White Wolf, he had Stafford go for 33.8. I said Juju Smith and Cooper, they combined for about 45 points each. And Michael Thomas only went for 8 points. Running backs were Freeman and Barber, 1.5 and 14.5. Tight end was Njoku, just over 17. In the flex, you had Cortland Sutton, only 2.5. Boswell, your kicker, he actually ended up being 10.1 because he threw a touchdown pass. I believe, he got 6. I'm looking at his field goals there. He got 2 PATs. I think he missed a kick, though, too. So he only got you 5. Then the touchdown pass was 5 points there, so that's 10. And then the 0.1 comes from, I believe, the 2 yards that passing touchdown was. I think that must have been I didn't really watch much of the Steeler game. Like I said, I was taking a day off of football, Still haven't seen the play, so I can't really say what happened. But I think it was a 2-yard touchdown. So whatever they did, so that's where the .1 comes from anyway. And then Washington defense, Yahoo says 4. I believe that was actually the correct score. And like I said, pretty much Juju and Cooper were enough to get past the Isotopes this week. No Mahomes, so we went with Nick Mullins this week, who more like a mulligan on this one. That was pretty clever, huh? Yeah. But anyway, he only went for 27 points. Wide receivers were Doug Baldwin, Valdez-Scantling, and John Ross. 9 points, 1.5 points, and 12 points, respectively. Running backs Aaron Jones and Tariq Cohen, 18.5 and 19. Greg Olsen, only 3. James White, only 8.8. Mason Crosby, about 5.5. And then Denver defense, Yahoo says 23. I believe it was actually closer to 30 or 32, something like that, because they gave up a ton of passing yards, but they actually did pretty good on rushing stats, I think, so it was a little bit extra. It was around 30, 31. But like I said, a lot of bad scores for the Isotopes this week. All the big guns were on bye, so kind of expecting this one from draft day, and it's pretty much how it panned out. So I do apologize, though, Jimmy. I know you were going for that perfect record, and I'm sorry we had to spoil it. But I think you were on the lineup saying, thanking me. I'm like, it's not my fault. It was Juju and Cooper. Entirely, let's see, it was like a 43-point difference there. So if both of those guys had scored like 20, which would have been a regular score, things might have been different there, but a 136 does not deserve to get a win, I think, in most weeks anyway. So, with that win, said Juju and the losers. Let's see, he is now 1-11. Unfortunately, you're still in 12th place, while the Isotopes dropped to 9-3, and they are in 2nd place. All right, next up, we had Space Antelope trying to continue his hot streak, going up against the Bad Luck Bears, who really needed to get a win here to not drop back to 500 and fall out of the current playoff race. Well, he's still in the race, but he is currently on the outside looking in now, thanks to Space Antelope getting a win here. His, I think, 7th in a row. Final score was 197.95 to 142.45. For Space Antelope, we had Phillip Rivers go for 51.5. Wide receivers, Julio, Hopkins, and Edelman, 23.8, 12.5, and 18.5, respectively. Running backs, Ingram and Sony Michel, 8.5, 25.5 for Michel, over 100 yards and a touchdown there. Excuse me. Tight end was Kittle. He got 11.8. Philip Lindsay in the flex, an even 20. Lutz, your kicker, looks like you got about 6.5. And then Patriots defense, Yahoo says 11. I believe it was closer to, it was probably about double that. It might have been 25, something like that. You actually got a decent amount of extra points there from them to get you all the way up to almost 200 this week. Way more than enough to get past the Bad Luck Bears, who definitely had bad luck on his side this week. Drew Brees only going for 36. Wide receivers were Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, and Bruce Ellington from the Lions. 17.5, 7.5, and 9, respectively. Running backs were Connor, and theoretically, your running backs were James Conner and Theo Riddick. 11.5, and actually Riddick outscored James Conner. He got 13 points. Tight end, no Jimmy Graham. Well, I actually think Jimmy Graham did play. You played Ben Watson, though. He got you 1 catch for 20 yards. And despite a broken thumb, Jimmy Graham would have been the better play, as he outscored Watson by 2.5 points. Obviously not enough to make a difference in this matchup. In the flex, you had, Josh Adams, running back from the Eagles. he got you 16.5. Hopkins, your kicker, looks like about 5. And then the Houston Texans defense, Yahoo says 15. I think it was closer to about 25, maybe close, something like that. 25, somewhere between 25 and 30, I believe, offhand. But said you were up against an almost 200-point score, and it was not enough this week. Space Antelope, like I said, 7-game winning streak now. He is now 8-4. He is in 4th place, while the Bad Luck Bears, they dropped to 6-6, and they slid all the way down to 8th place. So we'll have to see what happens there as we are going into the final week of the regular season, as Bad Luck Bears are one of those teams trying to steal one of those final playoff spots. All right, next matchup was Disco versus Possum Magic. No easy one here. Actually, for Disco, well, it kind of was because Disco's team pretty much went wild. Even though Possum Magic, kind of story of his season, he puts up 182 points and he ends up losing to the highest score of the week, which was 232.7. And like I said, Possum 182.8. So big week for Disco. Let's go through his lineup here. Winston, your quarterback, went for 58. Wide receivers, Beckham Jr., Diggs, and Ridley, 13.5, 23, and 21.5, respectively. Running backs, Breida and Tevin Coleman, 20 and 11.5. Jordan Reed, tight end, 13.5. Melvin Gordon in the flex, 20.5, but I believe he has a sprained MCL, they're saying. So that is not good as we are heading into the fantasy playoffs here for you. Let's see, taking a look at your bench here, you've got some guys that you could plug in. You're probably going to end up being a wide receiver, plugging into your flex there, probably Traquan or Corey Davis. But so you don't have a bye this year, so you're going to be playing in week 14. So I doubt Gordon will be back by then. So you're kind of hoping that you make it to week 15 or beyond and maybe get him back for the Tonto Bowl. So bad timing for you there on that, but I think you got some guys on your bench who could easily come in and get you a decent amount of points there. So we'll have to see what happens. Also got to stay worried because who knows? You're riding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback carousel, and who knows if Jameis Winston might go out on any given Sunday and get benched at halftime, and there'll be nothing that we can do, nothing you can do about that. So we'll see what happens. Definitely some risky plays there. As for Possum Magic, like I said, big score from him in terms of his production this year. Let's see. Take a quick look and see if this is... No, because I know he's definitely been over 200 points, at least at some point this year. Possum Magic. His 182... Yeah, he was over 200 in week 4. This was actually his second highest point total of the season, but not enough to get a win here. Let's take a look at his lineup. He went with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, got you 47.5. Running or receivers, Tyler Boyd, Manuel Sanders, and Jarvis Landry. Boyd and Sanders both went for 21.5, while Landry went for 6. Running backs, Richard and Kenyon Drake, only 3.5 from Richard, but you got 26.5 from Drake as he scored 2 touchdowns this week. Tight end, Trey Burton, only 4.5, just about close to 5. In the flex, Christian Kirk, receiver from the Cardinals, he got you 8 points. Kicker was Gano, he got you about 6 or so. And then the Saints defense, good pickup of them. Was definitely thinking about that myself. You dropped I think you dropped all your other defenses and are going to ride with them for the rest of the year, and keep them away from other teams. I don't know that they have the greatest matchups going down the road, though, so I think that's why I never got rid of the Jets defense and never bothered to pick up another one. But anyway, Yahoo says 24. I believe their total was closer to mid-30s, something like that. They had a pretty decent game there. Yeah. But again, like I said, Boston Magic putting up a good score this week for him. Unfortunately, kind of the story of his season, it was not enough as he drops to 2-10. He is in 10th place, while Disco moved up to 8-4. He is in 3rd place, right between the Isotopes and Space Antelope. All right, next up, we had a team fighting for his playoff life and someone trying to play spoiler here as the Mighty Midgets went up against FC Bahorik, and the Midgets were able to get win number 7 and get that much closer to a playoff spot. Final score here, 218.8 to 148.4. Let's take a look at the Midgets here. He had Ben Roethlisberger, wow, 41 completions. He had that long touchdown. He was over 400 yards. With a long touchdown, he got you just about 72 points. Let's see. Wide receivers, Thielen, Kiki Kuti, and Adam Humphries. 26.5 for Thielen. Good game for him. Kuti, though, only 3.5. And Humphries, not bad, 17.5. Another touchdown from him. Your running back duo, Kamara and Elliott. Let's see. Kamara, 10.8. But Zeke got you almost 30. 28.5 points there. Let's see. Tight end was Cook from the Raiders. He got you about 11. And in the flex, you had Carson, running back from the Seahawks. He got you about 14.5. Prater, your kicker, looks like about 3 or so. And then the Chargers defense did pretty good against Arizona. Yahoo says 11. I think the yardage totals were pretty good there. And they actually ended up getting you, it was probably closer to 30, something like that, off the top of my head. But so it was enough to get past FC Bahorik this week, who picked up and was going with Lamar Jackson, Ravens quarterback, who does more rushing than he actually does throwing the ball. He got you 34 points. Your receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Kenny Stills. Moore, another good game, 17.5. Keenan was just over 20, but Stills was only 1.5. Adrian Peterson and LeGarrette Blount were your running backs, 6.5, and Blount, 2 touchdowns there. He was just over 23. Gronk got you 14.5. In the flex, you kept starting Goodwin, Marquise Goodwin, even though I think he was out this week. And I don't think you really had too many other options. You could have put in Uzuma. You could have put in Ty Montgomery. They both scored pretty much the same, about 9.5 points there. Wouldn't have made any difference in this matchup. So doesn't really make a difference now. Although you always like to see, you hate to see somebody leave people in their starting lineup, even though I know this week doesn't really matter. Nothing really in the season really matters for FC Bahorik anymore. You don't like to see people. You still want to put a team out there and compete every week. So if you know the guy is going to be out that week, you always want to get somebody in your lineup there, so you're at least getting some points and not just looking like you're giving up. Anyway, and your kicker was Roses from the Giants. He got you about 11 points or so. And then you picked up and played the Cleveland defense because your Rams were on bye this week. Actually turned out to be pretty good. They got, Yahoo says 16. It was probably closer to 25 or so. And they got the win. Looks like a couple turnovers, block a kick. And they also ended Andy Dalton's season. So, all right. FC Bahorik, like I said, unfortunately for you, you dropped to 2-10. You are in 11th place. And with the Mighty Midgets, he moves up to 7-5. He is in 5th place. All right, next up, we had teams fighting for their playoff lives. Both of these teams, this was a must-win for both guys. but especially the team that ended up losing here, as it was Dub C Hooligans getting a win over the Shawshank Athletics. Final score 205.25 to 164.9. For the Dub C, we had Andrew Luck go for 58. Wide receivers Lockett, Sanu, and Demarius Thomas. Lockett, 100 yards and a touchdown. He got you 21.5. Sanu, 11.5. And Demarius Thomas, only 4 catches, but he had 2 touchdowns. He got you just under 20 points. Running backs were Mixon and Mack. 22.5 for Mixon and 11.5 for Mack. That should be like some kind of like a musical duo, Mixon and Mack, or like a comedy duo. Sounds, at least it sounds like Mixon, or the law offices of Mixon and Mack. I think I've seen their commercials late at night on television. Tell them you mean business, Mixon and Mack. Sorry, I'm making myself laugh here. If I can't make myself laugh, I shouldn't be allowed to make anybody else laugh. All right, you had no tight end, so you had to pick up somebody, and you went with Jonnu Smith from the Titans. He only caught 2 passes, but one of them was a 60-yard touchdown to get you just over 14 points. LaShawn McCoy in the flex, only 6. Tucker, your kicker, about 11. And then the Minnesota Vikings defense, Yahoo says 13. I believe it was closer to 25-ish, 28, something like that. But yeah, it was just enough to get you over 200 points there and end the playoff hopes for real for Shawshank Athletics. Sorry, Josh. Let's see. You had quarterback Aaron Rodgers, only 31 points. Wide receivers Deshaun Jackson, T.Y. Hilton, and Allen Robinson. Only 5.5 for Jackson, 19.5 for Hilton, and another 5.5 for Robinson. Nice week for your running backs here, Fournette and Chubb, 25.8 and 27.8. Before Fournette got into a fist fight, might have gotten you a little bit more points there. Don't think it would have made a difference though, but and then I see Fournette is suspended, so but you've got good news is you've got TJ Yeldon to plug in this week, and I'm not sure who you're playing, but unfortunately for you, you are going to be playing spoiler at best if you are going against one of the teams trying to get a playoff spot here in Week 13. Tight end was Zach Ertz, another 22 points from him. In the flex, you went with Cameron Brate, going to tight end because that's the one Winston likes to throw to, and O.J. Howard is gone anyway, so it wasn't a bad play. He got a touchdown. He got you 11.5. Let's take a look at your bench real quick and see who else you could have. Yikes. So you didn't have too many other options here in terms of guys to play So you got Kerryon Johnson, but he is still hurt. So probably, looks like ended up being the best play for you there was Brate anyway. So good call there. Fairbairn, your kicker. Looks like he got you about 12.5, 13 points. And then another disappointing performance from the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Yahoo says 3, and I believe that actually was the point total because they gave up too much of everything, I'm pretty sure. They lost the game, gave up a lot of... I think you got 3 points back, though, for points there. And, yeah, that was pretty much it. So, big factor in this matchup was, Jacksonville getting outscored there by the Vikings defense. Let's see. I think it was like 25 or 28 to 3. So, about a 25-point difference there. And then, again, your quarterbacks, Luck pretty much doubled up. Rodgers there, 58 to 31, so close to doubling up. And that was the main difference here because Fournette and Chubb Fournette, Chubb, and Ertz tried to get you there, but you got a disappointing. Your buns, Josh, your buns failed you this week. I'm sorry to say. Stuff the meat inside. They tried, but your buns failed you, and that ends your season for the most part here. Let's see, Shawshank. Like I said, unfortunately for you, you dropped to 6 and 7, and they're 5 and 7. Excuse me, and you are in 9th place. As for the Dubsy Hooligans, other way around, he's 7 and 5. He is in 7th place. So if the playoffs started today, he would be out, but he's still got one more week to try and squeeze his way in there. So we'll see what happens. And final matchup was Hillbillies on PCP, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive as well, going against Gags to Riches, trying to bring an end to his 10-game winning streak. And guess what happened? Hillbillies on PCP keeps their season alive, ends the winning streak, knocks off Gags to Riches, although he is still in first place and sitting just fine despite the loss. This one was way more important to Hillbillies on PCP, and he gets the win here, 188.45 to 157.7. For Hillbillies, he had Tom Brady, 42. Receivers, Galladay, AB, and Josh Gordon, 14, 15.5, and 12, respectively. Running backs, David Johnson and Duke Johnson, 10 points and 5 points. Tight end, I think you picked him up maybe 2 weeks ago. Plugged him in. I don't even know his first name. Jeff Heuerman. Not sure why you're playing him over Ebron. Losing your trust in him for some reason. But, looks like you're going to be going back to Ebron because Heuerman is on the IR now. Not before he got you 6.5 points. And then here was the biggest factor in this one. I believe this was probably most likely the highest non-quarterback point total of the entire season. Christian McCaffrey went for 49.5 points. Over 100 yards rushing, over 100 yards receiving, 11 catches, I think 2 touchdowns. So almost 50 points from him. That was the big factor here in a 30-point margin of victory over Gags. Kicker was Vinatieri. He got you about 10. And then the Dallas Cowboys defense, Yahoo says 15. I think it was closer to 20, somewhere between 20 and 25, somewhere around there. But more than enough to get past Gags to Riches this week. Let's take a look at his lineup. He had Kirk Cousins, not a bad game, 63 points. Your wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Alshon Jeffrey, and Willie Snead. Another good game from Adams, 18 points. But Jeffrey and Snead let you down, only 7, and Snead got 0. Another big game from Barkley. Over 100 rushing yards, 7 catches. I think he had 2 touchdowns. He went for 36.5. Dalvin Cook went for 16.5. No Kelsey, so you picked up and played Seals Jones. He only got you 1.5. Miller, the Bears wide receiver in the flex, 8.5. Kicker, Robbie Gould, only 1 point. I think you had no Zerline. He was on bye this week, so he playing an extra kicker there this week. Instead, he only got you 1. And then the Seattle Seahawks defense, they won the game, but I think they gave up. Obviously, so they went up against the Panthers and pretty much gave up enough yardage just to McCaffrey himself to not get you too many points there. But Yahoo says 6, and I want to say it might have actually been 6 or maybe 9. It was right around there, even though they did get the win. They gave up a whole bunch of yards. Too many points there. But yeah, it was right around whatever the actual Yahoo total is there. But like I said a few minutes ago, Gags to Riches didn't really make a difference in this one on his standings or anything with his standings this week because he drops to 10 and 2, but he is still in first place. I think he said to try and get the regular season championship. I was hoping that Gags would lose this week, and I needed to get a win, but that didn't pan out. And I want to say that Gags has a fairly easy matchup this week. I think it's one of the bottom teams. Of course, nothing's ever for sure, but it looks like Gags is probably going to get a win here in week 13. And if he does, that would definitely clinch him the regular season championship. The only way that he could lose it would be if he loses this week and the Isotopes win, which like I said, I think he's playing one of the bottom teams. So it's highly unlikely, but anything's possible. As for Hillbillies, again, he keeps his playoff hopes alive. He moved up to 7-5, and he is now jumped ahead of Dub C. He is in 6th place, so he's in the playoffs if they started today. All right, so those were the results from Week 12. Let's take a quick look here at the standings. Like I said, Gags to Riches and the Isotopes, as of last week, more or less locked up those top 2 playoff spots and bye weeks. Disco and Space Antelope, they are both 8-4. They are pretty much, I said Yahoo has not clinched them, but I really don't see a scenario in which they drop out. Only because Mighty Midgets and Hillbillies on PCP are playing each other this week, and that means one of those guys will not be getting win number 8, which is probably going to be necessary to get into the playoffs here, at least into one of these positions 3, 4, or 5. And of course, that only leaves one spot left, which I think going over this a little bit, I think people were talking about it on the lineup a little bit this morning. As for how things could shake out here next week, let's just take a look at each team real quick here. Starting with, Disco and Space Antelope, we can kind of just consider that they're going to be in. So let's take a look at Mighty Midgets and what he needs to happen. He's playing Hillbillies on PCP. So, Mighty Midgets, you win, you will be in, and you'll probably be hoping that either Space Antelope or Disco loses this week, because that would give you both 8-5 records, and you are ahead of both of them in points, your overall point total, which means you could probably leapfrog one of those teams in these standings here if one of them were to lose, if not both of them. If they both lose in week 13, you could jump all the way to 3rd place. I think some of the matchups here in week 13 are good for those teams that are near the top. As let's take a quick look. Disco is playing the White Wolf, so don't want to pencil that in as an automatic victory, but it's definitely in his favor. While Space Antelope is playing the Shawshank Athletics, who you never know what they can do. They have the ability to knock him off, but anything can go there. So, but then with Mighty Midgets, let's see what happens if you lose. That means Hillbillies on PCP would have 8 wins. You would be 7-6. That would mean that you need the Dub C Hooligans to lose, because if they win, that would be win number 8 for them, and that would mean that Hillbillies and Dub C would make the playoffs, and you would drop out. So if you lose, you need the Hooligans to lose, and you also would need, I guess it's just Dub C. If the Bad Luck Bears win and you lose, you're still about 100 points ahead of them. I think it was actually, total is 80. So if you lose and Jay wins, and as long as you stay at least 80, you don't lose to his score by more than 80, you could still make the playoffs. Let's take a look here at Hillbillies on PCP. Like I said, if he wins and knocks off Mighty Midgets, that would make him 8-5. He would be in the playoffs. But what happens if he loses? That would make him 7-6. He needs Dub C to lose, and he would also need the Bad Luck Bears to lose. So if Brian wins, he's in. If he loses, he needs Dubsy and the Bad Luck Bears also to lose, because so if Dubsy won, that would give him 8, and if the Bad Luck Bears win, they would both be 7 and 6, and the Bad Luck Bears are currently about 140 points ahead of you in terms of overall point total there. So Brian, you need to either win, and if you lose, you're rooting for the Hooligans and the Bad Luck Bears to lose. As for Dubsy Hooligans, basically you win, and you should be in, because that would give you 8. If you lose, you need a lot of things to go your way. If you lose, you need Brian to lose, and you also need Jay to lose, because that would knock him to 6 and 7. You would be 7 and 6 if you lost, and you're about 40 points behind Hillbillies on PCP. So basically, you're hoping to win, and if that can't happen, you need, let's see, so you would maybe have a chance if the Bears lose. So if you lose, your chances are extremely thin. And then as for Bad Luck Bears, like I said, he's 6 and 6. Who's he playing this week? He's playing FC Bohoric. If he wins this week, so that would move him to 7 and 6. That could bump him up ahead of Dubsy Hooligans if they lose. That could bump him ahead of Hillbillies on PCP if they lose. So Bad Luck Bears are not out of it. You need to win, and you need Brian and the Hooligans. You need Hillbillies and Dubsy to both lose as well. So a lot of different things, shake-ups that could happen here in those last 4 playoff spots. Most likely there's going to be a 7-win team that does not make the playoffs. That's always difficult to see, because you know that usually 7 is enough to get you in. As we know, last year 6 and 7 was enough to get in and go all the way. So there's going to be at least one good team this year that is going to end up on the outside looking in. In week 13 here, the matchups. So Dubsy, he needs to get that win. He's going up against the Isotopes. Disco versus the White Wolf. Really not too much going on with that one. Bad Luck Bears, he needs to get that win. We'll see what happens against FC Bohoric. Gags to Riches versus Possum Magic. Really more or less a meaningless matchup there. Said unless Gags could possibly drop out of number 1 seed to number 2. Hillbillies on PCP versus Mighty Midgets. So that's, like I said, that's going to be the matchup to watch, because the loser is still has a chance, but it's going to be pretty tricky for them. And then Space Antelope versus Shawshank Athletics. Shawshank looking to maybe spoil, not spoil Space Antelope's season, maybe spoil his winning streak, knock him off, and maybe knock him down 1 or 2 spots there in the playoff standings. It'll be interesting week 13. Basically, see who lands that last playoff spot. Said one of them is going to go to either the Midgets or Hillbillies, and it's basically the other 3 teams are going to come down to fighting for that 1 spot. So it'll be fun to see what happens there. All right, that's the playoff. That's the playoff situation. So we'll see what happens here in week 13. All right, is there anything else that needs addressed? I don't think so. Last week of the regular season already. Gotta check my mail here, see if anybody sent their money. Still holding out for that. Let's see. I think the guys who have not paid yet, you know who you are. So hopefully that will be happening sometime soon. I don't want to be the bad guy here. I think I've said enough about it in the past already. that I shouldn't need to keep mentioning it. So is that it? I think so. So we'll see what happens here as Week 13 commences, and we'll see who all makes the playoffs. I think I have mentioned this, or at least talked about the playoffs a little bit before. Said every team, so there's going to be a good team that doesn't make the playoffs. And looking at the standings and where things are now, if the playoffs started today, it's basically gonna have the same teams that are in it as of right now. There might be one team flip-flopped out of there to maybe Dub C or the Bears over Hillbillies or Midgets. But basically, this year's playoffs are going to be it's going to be an unpredictable slugfest, I think, because every team is going to be good. I know you always have to be good. You don't always have to be good. Sometimes you luck your way into the playoffs. I certainly know. And even if you just have to get lucky at the right time, but really to look at the playoffs and who's going to be in it and try to predict who's going to make it to the Tonto Bowl and who's going to win, I have no idea. I look at every team and think those guys could beat me. Any teams that is in there, gonna get in there, is more than capable of beating my team and beating any other team. So hopefully it's gonna be. I'm predicting one of the wildest the playoff races that we've ever had. Hopefully we're gonna have some. So I think the past couple of years, the Tonto Bowl has been really not competitive. It's been a blowout, a lot of these playoff games. But I think this year we're going to have some matchups that really are just, like I said, absolute slugfests. Hopefully we'll have some 200 points versus 200 points. Maybe in Tonto Bowl, whoever gets there, it'd be fun to see two 200-point scores go against each other this year. I just think the scores are going to be crazy. The teams are so good. Who is the favorite? Nobody's the favorite. Whoever comes in at number 6 or 5 could very easily run off with it just as easily as in the 1 or 2. So I'm already mentally preparing myself, getting ready for the playoffs. I'm excited for it. I'm ready. I like my team's matchups. We'll see what happens. Said hopefully. Only problem here, obviously, is Andy Dalton. Losing him from the Bengals. We'll see how that affects AJ Green going down the stretch here. Although he's been on a couple weeks off with an injury there. Hopefully he's coming back this week. But yeah, it's going. I can't even try to predict who's going to win because I haven't the slightest idea. All I know is, and I said this just a minute ago, I am excited to see what happens because I have no idea how it's going to go. So we're going to have some fun these next couple weeks here for all the teams that make it into the playoffs. Yeah, so that's it. We'll have to got to figure out maybe some of the stuff here with how Yahoo is related. As I said, we are saying goodbye to our commissioner as he will be stepping away from the league after this season. So see if we can keep things on Yahoo pretty much the same. Since the commissioner is leaving, he might not want things running through his account anymore, so we'll have to see if we can figure out how to keep that and keep the same league and maybe change the commissioner status here. But anyway, all right, that's it for Week 12. Good luck to everyone who needs wins here in Week 13. May everyone's teams and players exceed expectations and avoid injury. And we'll see you back here to wrap up the last week of the regular season and get ready to head into the Tonto Bowl playoffs. All right, guys, thanks, and we'll see you back here again next week.